Dave Chesson on the C&M show. How you doing, Dave? Where are you coming to us from?
I'm doing great, and I'm all the way in Franklin, Tennessee, which is a little city south of Nashville.
Okay. So you're not too far from the Ingram warehouse, Ingram headquarters.
Nope. Actually, that's about maybe 25-minute drive. You can hit that, and it's pretty fun. But there's also a lot of publishers that come through. A lot of great writers around the area as well. Ted Decker. That's actually how I got to work with Ted Decker. Is he lives around here.
Okay.
And yeah, so I love Nashville. I'm a big fan. I also love Tennessee. Great state.
I have to say that there is a wealth of authorly goodness in that area, and
Oh, yeah.
I will be driving through hopefully in September. I was trying to come through in March, but needless to say, we're still kind of restricted. And I think I'm on track to get my vaccination in March, April, with that time frame, and then make sure it's all good. So Michael Anderle and I may be driving through in September. We're really working hard for that
That'd be
to
awesome.
get a visit of Ingram and meet with authors, have a meet and greet for an evening, and then move on. And then I'll end at NINC. I'm going to attend NINC this year. So that's
Oh,
why
awesome.
September, we're going to drive across America, meet authors, hang out, and then end at NINC, and then fly back through Toronto to meet the big author group up there. There's a bunch of authors up there, but I'm not sure there's a big author group because, nobody can afford a $1 million cabin.
Yeah. Well, when you come through Nashville, please let me know. I'd love to take you out. I know some really good spots. My absolute favorite coffee shop is here. They've got a bourbon caramel latte that's just to die for. So
Okay,
I'm more than happy to share that with you.
That sounds great, man. And not that we pimp products, but Mike, Dave and I were talking right before we went live about a new product coming online from Dave Chesson and his team, and it sounded pretty damn exceptional. So tell us about that real quick.
Yeah, well, actually, this is going to be the first time I say it publicly. So
You don't have to if you don't want.
No,
I mean,
it's okay. This is the group. I mean, when I started Rocket, it was, being a part of 20 books and being able to talk to authors and make sure that, we got the product right was such a huge part of it. So to announce this here, first time
right
ever.
here, right
Yeah,
now.
I feel like that's just fitting.
For the
We've been working on this.
Watching.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Well, we've been working on this for over a year, but as an author, one of the things I've hated most, just to the whole process, is that I'm a user of Scrivener, I'm a user of Google Docs, and I'm a user of Vellum just to get my book together, right? And what does that mean? For me, I enjoy using Scrivener. It's really hard and complicated to learn how to use it. I've used it since 2009 when I worked for Apple, and just around when it first came out. So I've been a part of it, and to this day, I think I've only used about 40% of it. But I choose to use it because it's better than Word. But then when I'm done with it, I have to export it and I upload it to Google Docs so that I can collaborate with my editor. I can see real-time track changes, and on top of that too, I'm working with beta readers using Google Docs, and then I've got to bring that down and I've got to use Vellum to then format it, and get it ready. Because let's face it, I own a Mac, so I can use Vellum, but all of that, and then on top of that, version control. And it just really sucks. So one of my biggest gripes is there's never been the one thing that combines it all together. And that's exactly what we're creating. We believe end of February will be coming out. It's called Atticus. And this is basically if Scrivener and Google Docs and Vellum got together and they had a baby, this is it. And we're really excited. We're really focusing on a bunch of other aspects too, like way better outlining capability. We're teaming up with other companies like BookBrush to incorporate designs into the formatting. So if you want a special background or you want a special, component that makes your book pop, you can click a button and work with BookBrush to get that design. And they're going to make sure it works right inside of Atticus easy. It's just a whole bunch of opportunities to make the one software. I jokingly say it's like the one ring to rule them all, but like the one book writing software to really do it all. So
yeah, we do have to jump around between a lot of different documents. I know I write in Word. I get my proofreading and beta reading team work in Google Docs, and then I reincorporate that back into my Word document. And then I actually have been publishing recently in Word from Word because I utterly despise having to do Mother May I,
Yeah.
because I don't have a Mac. So to get a vellum format, I have to have somebody else do it. So if there's one typo, I have to go back to this one person. Hey, can you fix this typo? And then wait for the file. And then, fuck no, I hate that. So I've been publishing right out of Word. And you know what? My readers have not recognized the difference, and sales continue to increase. So but there is some sexy formatting. You can really make books pop, give it that
Right.
extra little bit, especially in a crowded marketplace. What do you do to stand out when the 10 books next to yours are great stories just like yours? Those little things to stand out, like that little bit better plot, because Scrivener handles that so well. The little bit better details, the extra sexy look from within the publishing realm. So all of that is good stuff. And then the incorporating input to a version control. As military men, we know very,
Yep.
very well version control is the freaking kiss of death.
Yes,
You have
it
to
is.
have in all the documents, you have those track changes thing in the front that you handwrite. Oh my God, that was because you'd get changes from everywhere, and then you'd have to handwrite that and do the changes in the document. So version control is critical. All of that, it looks like a huge win. One-stop shopping is what I prefer. I mean, I think it's Walmart's model, but it works great, and that's great. Thank you for sharing this with us,
Yeah.
Dave. We look forward to seeing it. And
I'll add one thing too. Is one of the things I'm most excited about is being able to control who has access to the project. Imagine it this way, like, so you've written in the writing setup. Now you go to collaboration, and you can immediately give your editor a link. But now you can see when they've accepted it, and you can also take away their ability to see it when you're done. So that way, there's not a copy of your book floating around, that the editor has. Or with beta readers, just to be able to click a button, you give them beta access. It only allows them to do certain things, and then when you're done, you can kill it, and there's not another version of your book floating around there where people can share it. So just having one spot where you can see everybody listed and what their permission is, whether they're a beta reader, an editor. We're also doing a formatting collaboration. So say, for example, you own the software and you're like, cool, the formatting's great, but I want to get back to writing. Here's an formatter that can, inside, same collaboration, be able to format my book using Atticus, and you don't even have to think about it. And then when they're done, you kill their connection. And they're like, okay, I got what I wanted. And I think the other thing that I really love about it too is that, so after you format your book and you export it, say a month later you realize, oh man, I made a mistake, or I need to change something. Just go in there, change it, and hit export again, and it works again. So you don't have to pay for an exporter. You don't have to. It's all just a part of one thing. So I mean, this has just been my own personal project, my own pain point as a writer. I hate having to go from one to another. And then what's even worse is after like a year or two, if I want to come back to a book, I've got to remember which version was the final. And what's even worse is I title them. Sometimes I'll say final version, then I'll find another one that says final version. I was like, why didn't I delete that other one? And and you just don't remember. So organization has been my key.
I have an archive folder in every one of my main folders that instead of, I don't delete anything because you never know. And I always copy them into that archive folder, and then I only leave one main, or try to. But having one-stop shopping, here's my prediction. Publisher Rocket did very, very well for you and your business. Atticus will be bigger. So there we go.
Yeah, well, the best part is that Publisher Rocket's taught me so much about software as well as systems and support. Any Rocket users who've ever used our support, I'm pretty confident you could say that they've gone above and beyond, because that's what we push. I want there to be true support. But when you put all those systems together, I've learned so much. And this software, we really think we're really excited about. We've been working for over a year. But I'm really jazzed about it. And like I said, for me as a writer, it's just really cool to finally have that system and those people and everything, and be able to say, this is a pain point. This is something I hate in the market. And to be able to say, well, I can do something about that.
Let's fix that.
Yeah, exactly. So
and I don't think you mentioned it here, but it'll be it'll work on both PC as well as Mac. Either
Absolutely.
way, you use one. If I'm using a Mac and my beta readers are using a PC, it all integrates. It's seamless, right?
Exactly. The way that we're going to work collaboration is that if you're collaborating with a writer, an editor, beta, or a beta, those people do not need to own Atticus in order to operate, because what it does is it will generate a Google Doc, if you will, for them with only their responsibilities and capabilities. And then as they change things or do whatever, you can see it on Atticus. So this is not going to be one of the softwares that, oh, everybody's got to own it in order for me to benefit from it. Although we really hope it gets to that point where, all editors and formatters are like, well, I only operate in Atticus. That's kind of the goal. But this way, though, you don't have to leave the software and everybody else can benefit from it. And then the moment that you kill their access, they just don't have permission anymore to see that Google Doc or to use it. If they do have Atticus, they can use Atticus to work inside of it. So if an editor has Atticus, there will be an editor kind of version, if you will, so they can have all of the components and have some extra benefits for themselves. But no, you will not be limited to being able to work with people if, whether or not they have it. So.
Yeah. And that's I know some people, and we've been working some projects that would benefit greatly from beta testing this if you so need. This not to be selfish, but fuck yeah. I see last put that it's a game changer, and I think so, because that collaboration, as people jump in between systems, they lose some critical changes that take their book from good to great. And then when they publish a final version, like, what the hell? I thought I fixed that, or what the hell? I fixed that 3 times. I mean, I've heard that. I've heard that within the past week, that we fixed the one thing 3 times, and still I go on to Kindle and hey, look, there it is. So we'll see that. And that is not why I had you on. I had you on to talk about like keywords and momentum within the industry through those things that our people can do to help their own businesses, besides buy Atticus at the end of February or whenever it comes available. So, what kind of price range are you looking at for that?
Pretty much. I mean, right now we're looking at half the cost of Vellum. So.
I don't have Vellum, so I don't even know what that cost is.
I think they're $250 a pop. 200 to 300. I think there's like different levels where if it's, and I'm sure comments can correct me on this, I think it's 250 if you just have ebook, 300 if you include book, or it's something like that. Maybe it's 200 and 250. Okay. But our goal is that we want to make sure that this is cheaper. I'm also, as everybody knows with Rocket, I'm not a fan of subscriptions. I also don't think that as an author, I would want to invest in a platform where I'm going to have to keep paying for it, in order to have it. So that's something that I'm really against as an owner. I could say that because, I mean, why? Even though if we created the software where you could export and use it, and then when you stop paying for the subscription, you still have access to your work. But let's face it, to me, that feels almost like they're holding it ransom. It's like, no, you got to keep paying us in order to use your work. Like, no, that's not cool. So
it's exactly what it is. It's a business model that requires you, that tethers you to them permanently. Yeah. And being able to buy it would be a great thing. And if you're adding, if you're doing 3 systems into one, if you charge what one system cost, like 200, 250, then I don't think anybody would even flinch at that to get the interoperability and capability of all 3 systems for the price of one. So half price is a relative, because if you buy all 3, and you need all 3, even though Google Docs doesn't really cost, but it does, because all of your data, guess what? Google has it, and they use it for marketing purposes. So if you don't pay for the product, you are the product. So keep that in mind when using Google Docs or anything Google, your Gmail. Whereas if you buy a product, hey, now that's yours, and they don't really get to scrape your data, which is another thing that the subscription models do. Is they still market to you. So this is a huge product, and it's a benefit. KDP Rocket, then Publisher Rocket, not the subscription model. Just buy it, use it, get all the upgrades as they come. Always a good thing, and that's Dave has been that way from the word go. And when I first met Dave 4 years ago, it was through that superb lens of Marine guy talking to Navy guy, and I think I gave you shit, and I had like 3 books published, and you're Dave Jessen, and I'm giving you a hard time.
If there are any non-veterans listening to this, it's almost like the equivalence of a "Hi, how are you?" but it's giving the other person crap. I believe there was a great meme that I saw online where it was like, if Santa and Frosty the Snowman were veterans, and Santa's flying, and Santa says something along the lines of like, "I hope you melt," and Snowman goes, "I hope you crash and burn," and it was like, yep, that's
just a military greeting.
That's
hey,
right.
Navy dude.
That's right. Hey, at least I'm not Air Force, right?
Yeah. Oh, I have to say, I started my career in the Air Force. I have pictures of me wearing Air Force blue before I transferred, inter-service transfer over to the Marine Corps, hardcore, and then 21 years later retired. So a little bit of all. My wife is in the Navy. I have ex-wives from every service, I'll have you know, and I think that makes me an exceptional human being.
Nice, congrats. Well, it's definitely well-rounded.
That doesn't deserve a congrats. It concerns what the fuck were you doing?
I try to look at the brighter side of it. Now, well, all right. So before we move into keywords and everything, I think we have a couple of questions. So some people asked, what is Atticus? Atticus is basically my approach to combining Scrivener, Google Docs, and Vellum all in one. Works on PC and Mac. We believe that we should have it out by end of February. But the key is that we call it phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 will be end of February, which is basically Vellum but better and half the cost. It's focusing on the formatting component, but immediately my team has a whole bunch of things we're adding to it. Collaboration will be the next major focus. We're also spending a lot of time on better outlining and also analytics tools to analyze your writing, to give you goals, to be able to set that. I think the goals and analytics will come out in February as well with the writing. So collaboration is probably what we call phase 2. Let's see. And yep, somebody corrected it. Is $200 an ebook, $250 for print and ebook, and that's Vellum's pricing.
And Atticus will do print as well.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, we want it to be as easy to use as you see in Vellum, but to give you even more options. And that's why, to be able to design some more specific pictures. But like I said, I think one of the big things is making it very intuitive. As I always call it with my software, I always call it my Muzzy factor. My grandmother, her name is Muzzy, and my goal is that if Muzzy can sit down and be able to use it and, figure some things out, like that's the goal. So I call it my Muzzy factor. I'm always asking my team, is that Muzzyable?
Yeah. And I have a question.
Yes.
I have over 100 books published. They're all written in Word. The final documents are in Word. Actually, I have some in Vellum. Can I import those and then now build a library of just Atticus files?
And that's actually one big thing that I'm focusing on, is having a dashboard where you can control all your projects, and make it very easy to understand, collect information. That's the goal. I want to kill version control issues. Load up your final product right onto it, and now you can control everything right there, make simple edits. But I'm really focusing on that organization component. So, yeah.
So by series
authors with multiple pen names, or writing in different genres, collaboration projects. We're really focusing on how we can harness that correctly and do that right. And in Vellum, it's or not Vellum, Scrivener, it's okay, you selected one, now you save it somewhere, and now it's not no, we want to really control in the dashboard itself right there. You can see all of your writing projects.
Somebody asked a question about iOS, if they write on iPad or their phone even.
Yeah, one of the things we are looking at doing is we're looking at adding a online component. My goal and my desire, this is we're really getting into my personal taste as a creator, is I love owning the software. I love having the software on my computer. I worry a bit about having things online, on somebody else's servers, where everything is stored there, or I have to go to it. Now, there's a benefit to having it like an online software, right? Which is where you can access it from any computer. And I get that. But when it comes to my writing work, I really want to have more control on it. But one thing I think that would be really important is giving a ability to also do it online if you wanted. And I say this to answer your question because that's actually the simplest way to do it on iOS or to do it on what's that other operating system? Mac, PC.
Oh, Android.
Well, Android, yep. And then there's the other one. I can't remember it. It's that we get a lot of questions about that, but there are a lot of people who use that other operating system other than Windows and Macintosh, and then
Linux.
Linux. There we go. Thank you. That was going to bother me. And so if you create this online version, that everybody can access it. So that's one way I think we're going to combat it. I'll tell you this as a program software owner or whatever, the dealing with iOS is actually really painful. They're crazy about their control. And I don't know if anybody's following the news of that video game that's actually like going to war with Apple.
Yeah, they've got enough money to do that.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like, all right, good luck with that, because the way that Apple works is they control a lot of the things. If you're on the market, I get that, but they also take a major percentage, like a major chunk. And then on top of that too, creating software for iOS specifically is like starting from scratch. You have to rebuild the entire thing just to get it. So we believe that creating an online version that would be mobile friendly, especially for iPad size, would be kind of the best way to go. And maybe it's only going to be like the writing components, maybe not the formatting, because formatting from your iPad might not be the best idea. But there's a couple of things that we really are investigating, looking into. But my goal is to make it that the Chromebook users and the iOS users can still continue to use it.
Okay. I like that. I like the interoperability. But initially, it'll be available PC and Mac only.
That's correct.
For
And as I do with Publisher Rocket, all upgrades and updates will always be free for owners. So this isn't one of those where if you invest in it on end of February that you're stuck with just the one version, you have to pay more. I hate that. I really do.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Sounds good, man. Sounds way good. So I see that you aren't sporting the COVID-19 like some others of us are. So what are you doing to keep your physical health during this time?
Oh, I've been working out like crazy. Actually, I do go to the YMCA. So that's been fun. But also my kids. I work really hard. Like I get up about 4:30 in the morning. Maybe I'll go to the gym, but then I start working. And then when I'm done, I usually am done around 3 o'clock. And then from 3 to 5, like I take the kids and we go do something outside. So I got like a BB gun for them. So we've been doing that. We've been doing archery. Yesterday we're playing soccer. But just getting outside has been a really big thing. But finding things to do with just the three of us outside, that's been kind of the creative COVID thing, because everything else is shut down. You can't go to the movies, can't most of the places you can't go and do this or that. So like I said, archery, BB guns. We've been hiking a lot. Tennessee is phenomenal for some great hills. So we've been just hiking. My son and I have been, every time we go out there, we'll find like a giant stick, and we both got these little whittling knives, and we'll cut up the stick, and make it into a spear and go hunt bear. But yeah, that's been it in a nutshell. That's been my 2020, I guess, which I'm not going to complain too much. It's been
no keeping that that is great, and great insight for other folks. Get the hell outside. I went down. We have to take our garbage ourselves because where we live, and so I threw it in, and the transfer site was closed, so I had to drive down into town to the a second transfer site, and it was minus 11 Fahrenheit in town. So of course I get out of my truck. It's cold. I have asthma, rather significant, and so I start coughing. And so I'm coughing the whole time. I'm throwing trash out of the back of my truck into the dumpster, and I get back in my truck. I cough for a little bit, and then I drive off. So yeah. If I want to be arrested by people wearing suits, I'll go outside when it's a little chilly up here. But generally, no. It's too cold out here for me to go outside, and that's a challenge. I do have a treadmill still coming, should be arriving any day now, and that is going to be my key to success. Is I have to burn calories. I've hit a plateau, thank God. I'm not gaining weight anymore, but I need to burn it, and the best way to do it is you burn more calories than you take in. Every diet known to man is you burn more calories than you take in. That's the easiest way to maintain your lifestyle and also your physical health. So treadmill, get here, come on, and we got a place cleaned out for it right there, so we can watch our freaking 75-inch HD 4K TV. And yeah, and a sound bar so we can turn up as loud as we need to, whatever. All that stuff, still got to burn those calories. So getting outside, hiking, doing all of that stuff. So when you do come back and get on your PC and load up Publisher Rocket, what kind of things, what kind of search terms? I've been challenged finding the right search terms lately to get those things that I can then use for keywords within the upload. I just finished a sword and sorcery book with Jean Rabe, who wrote Dragonlance. She wrote for Dragonlance. She also wrote some other stuff. She wrote a Conan story at one point in time. She wrote Shadowrun. I'm sure you're a cyberpunk Shadowrun kind of lover. But Jean and I wrote this book, and I've been doing searches trying to find the right keywords before when I upload it. And then I'm in that thing that, okay, Amazon has the category for Dungeons and Dragons, but if you put it as a keyword, it flags it and it holds it up. So what kind of recommendations do you have in this case? And selfishly, I'll ask that question.
Well, anytime I approach any kind of keyword project, the first thing I like to do is, and I start with a piece of paper. I like to idea generate, so then I can use the software to even build upon that. So when I do this, I actually create, so we'll stick with fiction, but I know full well fiction and nonfiction are very different, so we can move into nonfiction for the nonfiction listeners in a bit. But what I'll do is that in fiction, I will create 5 columns, and one's called settings and time periods. The second is character types and roles. The third is plot theme. The fourth is events and situations, and finally story tone. And what this does is it helps me to start thinking through some components. Now, those 5 general areas are what we found to be the most kind of like, they cover just about every component to fiction terms that people type in. So because when it comes to a fiction book, people try to describe the story. And so they use one of those, maybe all of those, some of those components or those types of words to piece together the story itself. So when we talk about this, like settings and time periods, how do you describe the setting, the time period? Certain words have certain connotations, whether it's correct or not. When I say the Caribbean, we all kind of jump to a conclusion of what time period or, what the layout is going to be. If I say, medieval, we already kind of know the type of story that's going to be happening. Now, if I say medieval by itself, that doesn't mean anything. But when I add medieval, say, a time period and setting term with another term, we start to build a better and better phrase and using a software like Publisher Rocket, you can actually see, hey, that phrase together really does work. People really do use that. So again, settings and time periods. I love this process of having the sheet because it forces me to just kind of think through some things, to really think of another way of describing, okay, I got to come up with like 5 or 6 ways to say this particular time period. And when you do that, you're going to find some incredible opportunities. And I think that's a really great way to start. Moving on to character types and roles. How do you describe your character? What makes your character important? It isn't just some detective. Who is she? What makes her unique? Is she an ex-cop? Right? I mean, just adding the word ex-cop already changes the story. We already kind of know their background, who they are, their motivation, those kind of things. Roles, what role do they play? Is it a single mother? Is it a estranged father? These are all really important components that help us to build the story. Plot theme is, what's the overall thing that's going on in the background? How do you describe that? Okay, and then events and situations, I call these like catalysts. A plot theme is the whole purpose of the story, but the events and situations or catalyst is what commences the story, right? What's the spark that occurs? A great example of this is that if you're in post-apocalyptic and you have, what was the spark to the post-apocalyptic. Okay, if it's that time period of post-apocalyptic. What I mean by that is this post-apocalyptic focusing on the dragons that ravaged the earth, or was it the disease that spread out and killed everybody? Or perhaps your catalyst isn't so much that, and it's more or less like, well, the post-apocalypse happened like a couple hundred years ago. The spark to this is those aliens came back, for round two, or to start mining the earth now that everything. These are the things that really describe that point. So what kicks off the story? And story tone, finally, is, I think, one of the most important ones that people don't really think about. And with the tone, it's sort of like the flavor of your genre. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, romance is a great example. In romance, you could go from Christian to wholesome to sweet and tender to hot and steamy to erotica to bondage. Like, we're going on a huge spectrum. And let me tell you, a Christian wholesome reader is going to want to make sure that when they type in their search term that they don't get bondage, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And so what we see a lot of times, especially just kind of analyzing the data, is that what happens for most fiction searchers is they'll start with a term, and then they'll look at the results and they'll be like, oh, this is not my kind. And then they'll add a word to the end of that term. And then they'll add another one. Nobody ever deletes. Most of the time, they don't delete the entire thing and start all over. They just keep adding phrases until it finally, shall we say, culls out the things they don't want. So imagine that you write in like, epic fantasy. And then you start looking at the books that show up. And it's almost like you start to see certain things. You're like, no, I don't want that. Like, there's romance. Okay, how do I kill the romance that are showing up in epic fantasy? So you'll say like dwarves and goblins. So you'll add that to the end, epic fantasy dwarves and goblins. And then you'll look and you'll be like, okay, well, what if I got rid of that? Or maybe if I put dungeons, or you'll see a term like lit RPG, and you'll be like, oh, let me add that one in. So it's epic fantasy, goblins, and then lit RPG. And that's when people start to see, okay, here's my books. Here's my people. This is my spot. This is where I want to be. And then they start clicking and they start buying. And that's kind of what we're seeing. So when you start combining these thought processes, okay, or these 5 general areas, you can start to come up with ideas. And then what I like to do is, once I have that list, and I would say target at least, try to get at least 5. But most of the time I say at least 10. But for those starting off, at least 5 for each one of the 5. And then go through and start putting it through Rocket, seeing if Rocket can expand upon that and create more ideas, and you write them down. But more importantly, it's giving you the data to actually say, that was a cool term, but obviously nobody's typing it into Amazon, so it's not going to help me. But, oh, this one, didn't even think about that, but that really fits. And holy moly, there's a lot of searches. And that's where you start to really kind of find where not only opportunity, but really your ability to get your foot in the door, so that you're starting to get natural Amazon traffic to your book.
You get the visibility. And natural, to answer Elaine's question, natural because your keywords in your metadata, your upload, that will find natural search. That's is where people who do it. Advertising, and yes, Rocket does advertising keywords as well. Those will funnel people when they search, and authors pay Amazon for the pleasure of funneling that person to their book. But organic, you can always win with organic. People may pay more and get that top spot, but you help yourself. Help yourself by having the right keywords in there. And I like your 5 column approach. We do have some questions. Somebody asked about a discount if they're a Rocket user for Atticus.
So I'm not sure. I'll be honest, we haven't really thought through that component, but I will say this, that when we offer it in the beginning, it'll be a cheaper price than it ever will be. And the reason, because I'll say it, those who invest in it are investing in the belief that we're really going to come through on what we say, and that we are going to continue to push to improve it. So when you buy it the first, it's going to be the lowest level, shall we say, that it will ever be. But believe me, I will make it happen. So your belief in what we do, you'll be rewarded, because that will be the lowest price offered. So that's probably the best approach to it. So it's not going to be a special thing just for Rocket owners in that respect. But I'm sure we'll find some way to just thank those who believed in Rocket and helped us to create systems to be able to build this more robust and capable software as well. So. Um, I have to say, I laughed at Elaine Bateman, the Christian bondage challenge accepted.
No, that's right. I actually uploaded a steamy romance book, the 20-book steamy anthology. I uploaded
Oh,
the final ebook version this morning for pre-order, so it'll come out on the 12th. And that one, when I was looking for categories, I'm like, yeah, would it be a stretch to put Amish under the category for steamy romance? Because that is one of the categories under the paperback. So I did not select Amish along with my steaminess. So anyway, it was my first foray into that realm. I don't write there, by the way. I'm just publishing it. All right, man. Back to cats. I really like that 5-column approach to help people better refine their view of how people search. And this is, you have to get in a reader's mind. Don't be in an author's mind. And this is, I always tell people to change hats. And now that I'm bald, changing hats is critical if I want to keep my head warm. But getting the right mindset for as a publisher and an advertiser and a marketer as opposed to an author. And this is why I deviate from the mainstream in that I don't like seeing authors reviewing other authors' stuff. I mean, you get a blurb, that's fine. But when authors say, oh my God, here, the new book came out, it's missing these plot points, stop it. 50 Shades of Grey, we can look at that and say, oh my God, the prose is horrendous. It sold 125 million copies. So get in the reader's mind and sell more books. This is what Publisher Rocket helps you do. So when you have a cool term, you're like, oh man, this term perfectly describes my book, and you search it and it comes up with the big goose egg. Nobody searches for that term. You got to fix your mindset before you say, well, Rocket's broken, because Rocket's not broken. It's what are the readers searching for, and what readers are you targeting? Because if you wrote it for yourself, that's great. But understand, if you want to sell it, you got to find the readers, and they search a different way. They think a different way. And that's on my the thriller anthology and the anthologies that we've been putting together. We have our beta reader team is readers. I mean, we had it for the sweet romance. We had a couple authors in there, but generally for the thriller, it's 100% readers. These people aren't authors, because I want to see the story from their perspective, saying, yes, I like this story, or no, I don't. Not my perspective, because my perspective will forever be tainted by being an author. So anyway, get in the reader's mindset, and that's what Publisher Rocket will help you do.
absolutely. A couple of questions that we've had pop up. First off, I saw somebody ask if there's a way that you can see which categories a book is a part of. The answer is absolutely. If you use the competition analyzer function, and it will bring up a list of every book that will show up for that keyword that you type in. And then all you have to do is either click check the categories, and you can check that particular book's categories, all the categories, not just the 3 that Amazon shows, or my favorite button, because I'm a nerd, but unleash the categories. I'm a geek, but I love the movie with Liam Neeson, where he's like, unleash the Kraken. And so every time I designed that button just so I could say that myself. So unleash the categories. But when you click that button, though, it lists every category that all of those books have. And it will tell you how many books you need to sell in that day in order to be the #1 bestseller. So it's very quick and easy to be able to pull categories, look at what categories they're showing for competitive books and things like that. Another person asked, is there a newsletter we can sign up for so we can be notified when Atticus is available? Yes, actually, if you go to atticus.pub, and there's a little sign up form right there. I'm pretty sure that sign up form is working. Like I said, this is actually the first time that I've announced this publicly completely, so I can't say I have all my marketing ducks in a row, but I'm pretty sure that does work. I know Jenna would have made it so. Questions: what 5 categories should nonfiction authors? I am going to jump on that in a second. I think there's another one. I was busy writing and came in late. Is there a new Publisher Rocket in the works? No, the same Publisher Rocket's always there, and anybody who owns Publisher Rocket will always get free updates, and the any new features always is free for you guys. Matter of fact, in 2 weeks, we're coming out with a new version that has a completely improved keyword feature. We're actually going to be showing historical information. So it's not just about this period, but you're going to be able to see how things are doing historically. You're also going to be able to see a grade scale that helps you to know if this is a good or bad keyword, so that we can kind of give you that component. And we're also incorporating average reviews in it. So that's going to be good. And then next month, we're including historical category data. So now not only can you see every category, but you can also see how the category is trending, if there's more books, more competitors, how sales are. And so you can see years worth of data in a category instead of just what's happening now. So, and all of those will be free for current owners. So I like I said before, I personally hate it when you buy software and then they improve it, and then all of a sudden they come back and they're like, but you got to pay us for more. No, it's just not my shtick. So.
That's you've set things up well for the author community, and we'll announce Atticus when it goes live. We'll announce it in 20 books. I'll announce it, and no affiliate link. I'm not getting a cut of this. It's just something that this is a potential, and the first rollout will be, yes, there may be bugs, but understand we'll work through them, and everybody who signs up and starts working with it, now you become the tester to input to, and that's one thing Dave's companies have been great about, is you can send input, say, hey, it doesn't do this, or this might be a different way to look at this issue or these interactions, and help make it better for everybody else.
Absolutely. All right, so moving to nonfiction itself. Nonfiction is different in the fact that, well, I mean, people don't describe a story. Instead, what they're really doing is they're describing what it is they want, and they want to make sure it's for them. So with this case, there's four things. There's what I call the pain point, then results and solution, emotional amplifiers, and demographics. So the pain point is what drove them. What problem are they facing that they want to learn, they want to address, right? What drove them to this? This could be, that the person feels overweight and they want, this is what's driving it, or somebody made fun of them. They were body shamed or something. So that drove them to want to, find something. So they describe the problem, not the solution. Okay. How, there's a funny example I love, is that the title is How Not to Die Alone, right? It's not that the result is you want to be together. It's really the fear of dying alone has driven the person to come to Amazon to then search for a book. So we're really looking at what drove them to want to find a book. Now, results and solutions is how do you describe what it is you actually want? Do you want a beach body? Do you want to earn more profit? There's all these other ways. Here is the finish line. How do you describe that finish line? Okay. And I'm going to stress this: pain points and solutions are two different things. They combine together, and sometimes combining a pain point with a solution is a phenomenal 1-2 punch on your title, subtitle. Boom, boom. This is what drove you here. This is what I provide, right? So pain point and solution. Emotional amplifiers, I think, is kind of like the extra sauce. It's the icing on the cake, because is it really that you want to lose weight, or is it you want to lose weight fast? How can you add more urgency to this? I want to lose weight now. Another way to kind of do an emotional amplifier is when you see things that are like 13 steps to this, or 7 ways, because when you add that 7 or that 13, it feels more digestible. And so you're emotionally amplifying the person, or they're describing in an emotional way what it is they want. And finally, demographics is what I think probably my favorite of all of the keyword sections for nonfiction. A lot of people forget about describing who this person is. A great example of this back in the day was when I was looking for my next book. I was researching, and this is years ago. It's not so much good anymore, but I was researching Evernote, and because Evernote was super hot at the time, people were, books that were showing up for Amazon were just crushing it, making lots of money. But the problem though was that everybody and their cousins started writing an Evernote book. So one way that I did was I did the research to find, okay, is there a demographic or a group of people that are looking for that subject? And if I can speak to them, then I should win, because everybody else is just Evernote for everyone. But when I did the research, I found that there was a significant number of people that were actually searching Amazon, typing in Evernote for students, Evernote for teachers, Evernote for project managers, Evernote for lawyers. Now, the numbers were not as large as Evernote, right? But if I wrote in Evernote for students, and there's one book and it's called Evernote for Students, so long as the cover doesn't look like it's, really bad, or that the reviews show that people have enjoyed it, that's all I need. I don't need to read through. This book spoke to me because it's the only one that spoke to me. So sometimes just taking the subject matter that you want and paring it down to an existing demographic and really targeting them can give you not only sales, but long-term continuous sales, which is really nice, so that you can build on that. You could even focus and do an entire series that's kind of breaking down like Evernote for all those other demographics, so long as you know the numbers exist and that is something that exists. So
Chicken Soup for the Soul is
right.
a great example of that.
Yep. Now there's Chicken Soup, for all the different demographics. Same thing with Miracle Morning, all the different demographics, and they're doing the research and making sure that those demographics exist before they create the book. But this isn't just about niching down too. This is also about helping you to really think through who it is you're writing for. A prime example of this is a couple of years ago, and if this author is listening, I won't say the name, but a person wrote a book on going back to school. But without fully understanding and just researching demographics, they wrote a book for everyone and basically wrote a book for no one. Because if I'm unsure of who this is for, uncertainty leads to no sale, period. If you confuse, you lose. And there's a huge difference between going back to school to get your GED, get your master's, or you're retired and you want to just get that college education, the little check in the box. All of these motivations, all of these pain points, all of these solutions, they're all completely different. And it was because it wasn't spelled out for who this is. Why would somebody want to get their master's? Because they want to climb in the corporate ladder, or they want to raise their status. Or why would they go back and get their college education? Well, that could be a couple of people. If you're retired, it's because why not? Or it's something you've always wanted to do, or you have the time, or whatever. Or because you never went to college and now you're looking for a job to do this. You could see that all of these are completely different. So if you don't at least look at demographics when you're doing nonfiction, you could truly lose out on a lot of opportunity. Or you could write a book that just tanks, not financially perhaps, but may absolutely tank in the reviews. I bought this book and this was for people in high school. What? I'm mad and I'm going to give you a 1 star and I'm going to tell the world how terrible you are, when it was just, well, okay, they didn't know this book wasn't for them and they guessed. So there's a lot of problems that can be solved by just really focusing on those 4 general areas. And so like we talked about with fiction, take the 4 columns, really come up with ideas on how you describe each one, and then plug that into Publisher Rocket and start seeing whether or not those ideas are good, as well as what Publisher Rocket recommends to you on how to build out from there. But all of that really plays out. And one last thing that I want to add on both of these, actually specifically for fiction, this is kind of a fun fact. When I wrote an article about those 5 categories that you should really build out your keywords for fiction keywords. And it was like a week later, Amazon itself actually started promoting that article and literally saying to people, hey, this is the way to optimize your book for more sales, your fiction book for more sales. And then what was really cool is a couple of weeks later, they actually changed their FAQ, their online FAQ, where they talk about keywords and metadata. And they said to literally do those 5 areas, and they basically spelled it word for word. So apparently Amazon itself took that as a good recommendation. So yeah, it was fun.
Amazon, yeah, I'm on KDPU. Not tomorrow. Well, tomorrow I have my pre thing, and then Thursday I'm on KDP University. Yeah, but it makes sense. It makes sense to have a well-rounded approach to finding the right reader, because that's the whole battle, is you find the right readers, and you won't get slaughtered in your reviews. You'll get the sales, you'll get the momentum, and you'll have the right people and set yourself up for the next book. Especially when it comes to fiction. For nonfiction, it sets you up as the expert in that area. And this is one thing that, if you're nonfiction, you need to establish your expertise. If you're going to talk about losing weight, you better be able to demonstrate that, yes, you live the dream. I mean, not, hey, I went on this diet and I gained 20 pounds, and now I'm going to write a book about how you can do it different than me. I mean, that's not the kind of credibility you want. I did it wrong, right, but I'm going to teach you how to do it right. So nonfiction is a different animal. You have to drill right into those people who are looking to have that problem solved. So, and sometimes they don't even know it's a problem. And this is the great fiction, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I mean, the best-selling nonfiction book of all time when it comes to like consultancies and things like that, because it makes sense. An odd number, that's where it demonstrated. You want 5, 7, 9. You don't want 4 for some reason. It doesn't sell as well as odd numbers. Yep. So stick with the prime numbers, 7 habits, 11 key elements, because those are effective. And we know that because the data says that. So learn from the data, be more like Dave, and embrace the data. Yeah, that's it. Not learn from it, but embrace it.
Yeah, that's actually a really good time, because one of the things that I love most about the keyword research, as well as just creating that list of ideas, is that maybe you put it through Rock, and Rocket comes back, it's like, nah, that's not going to be a good keyword. But it doesn't mean it's not a good word to use somewhere else in the development of your book. So, for example, now imagine having all this data that we just talked about for your fiction or nonfiction, okay, that whole list, as well as research from Rocket, you build out the list, etc. Now, how much easier is it to make title and subtitle? You know the words that people are using to describe the book. You also are starting to see ahead of, hey, if I'm writing a back to school book and my demographic, which I have now really figured out, is retired people going back to school, I better not have on the cover a young 20 something holding books, right? I need to think through this. And so it can help you to develop better covers that actually connect with your target market, as well as titles and subtitles. And then on top of that, using those words inside of the book description is very important, not just for indexing with Amazon, but triggering that reader that this is my kind of book. Craig, that there are certain fantasy and science fiction terms that are correct. You don't just say a war in space. Intergalactic battle is much better. And when we see these things, we know it's more our style. If you're a lit RPG reader, and you see words like cultivation, and dungeons and all these things, like, it's feeling much more in line. And that's what I like to do, is after I've written my book my book description, I'll go through my list and I'll find ways of, I should probably have used this word. I should probably change out these words. And all of a sudden I just start strengthening my story and really aligning myself more with my target market.
It goes with knowing your genre. And one thing I wanted to stress is that people are always worried about their budget, and keywords in your metadata on your bookshelf page and your blurb are free to change as often as you think you need to. So if your book really isn't resonating, it's not getting in the right hands, take a stab at changing those keywords and realigning. I took my best-selling series and made it YA because of the reviews that said, hey, this is a young adult book. Well, I put it in YA, so now the reviews can stop saying it's a young adult book and say, yes, this is a great young adult book, because, hey, that everything's aligned, and it sold so much better after that, free to change. So that's something that you can play with and doesn't cost you anything. So keep that in mind.
I would definitely say, and before I go into this, I'll answer some questions, but one of the things I'll talk about is there's a process that I like to use when I'm changing keywords, because there's a lot of things that can come of it. But one of the questions is, somebody asked, how about all category rankings for a book? Can we get that feature added? It's one of the things we're looking at. The problem, though, is that Amazon doesn't provide all the data. So, like, even though on the sales page you'll see the 3, and when you see the 3, they'll provide, where you rank or where that book ranks in that particular category. However, though, for the ones that aren't showing on the front, sometimes they're not providing that information at all, so it will be a bit blotchy. So we're trying not to make it confusing where people will be like, hey, why is it not showing this or this? Or, you know, if Amazon provide all that information, we'd have it totally. It'd be very easy to add. So we're going back and forth on whether or not we should do that, because it's sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, and that can be a bit confusing for people. Another question that we had, oh, looks like, so the sign-up's working, yay. Let's see. Well, I'm looking forward to that sign up question. Can blind users use a speech program for Publisher Rocket? So we did have somebody who was blind that used it, and it was about 1.5 years ago or so, and they said that their program was able to read it. So I don't know the specific program that they were using, and I can't say 100% sure, except that we had somebody use it and it worked. One thing though is we do have a 30-day money-back guarantee, no problems. So if for some reason your speech reading program can't access it, then no problem. Just contact us and lickety split, my team takes care of it. So, and then tweaking just a few keywords in my blurb made a huge difference. Yeah, I really love that process. In truth, I think blurbs are more important than people think. And it wasn't until Amazon ads came out that I really was like, holy moly, you know, just changing a blurb was a different, and I could see the numbers finally thanks to Amazon ads. I was like, whoa, okay. Instead of converting 1 out of every, 50 people that showed up, I'm now converting 1 out of 10, just because like that, and that works. But I think there's a multi-layered process to blurbs. And one of the things we started doing, that again, I guess we're announcing another thing, is that we started before COVID happened, paying a company that would have people come in to actually go to an Amazon book sales page and look at the sales page. And it would watch their eyes and it would record where their eyes went and what they focused on and things like that. So we were breaking it down in certain genres. And then COVID happened, and then they were like, yeah, we can't do this. I was like, all right, but we're waiting. It'll come back. But what we started to find was where people really cared to spend their time the most, and what kind of things worked and didn't work. Bolding this, doing that, having this. And a couple of the areas that I was shocked about was well, first off, editorial review section is huge. It is so underutilized, and I'm just kind of blown away. When people did it, what we found is that people don't actually read the editorial review. They look at who wrote it. And so one of the big things that I'm going to throw out there to everybody is take that time, because the editorial review is a free section. Amazon even says you can have friends for it. Like they literally put that in there. So you can have, but I wouldn't say friends, because what I think is most important is when you bold, so you write whatever they say, and then you bold who they are, but more importantly, you translate what that means for the shopper. So for example, if you have writer friends, like you got buddies here on 20 books to 50K, that you've worked with. If they do an editorial review, maybe they're not a famous author that the shopper will recognize and be like, oh my gosh, but you could say, Amazon bestselling author of fantasy. That translation means something to me, right? So find a way to translate who they are and how that's important to the shopper. And that's been huge. We saw that that's where most people were focusing on, was that component. And little to no people were actually reading the review itself. Another thing that we found too was that we found that certain genre-specific words really got a little bit more time. Like people hung on to them. Maybe people scanning were kind of, jotting as the eyes went, but we found there was just a lot more attention to those genre-specific words. And finally, a strong call to action at the end seemed to really resonate with people. Not just saying, get the book now, but one of the tactics that I really liked that I saw that was working was, if you're a fan of, and list these kind of competing books, if you will, or if you're looking for this kind of, and then this genre-specific term, then this is the book for you, that sort of thing was really resonating. So taking that time and using those words and finding ways to put in, I think is a really excellent tactic to what I call polish the cannonball, as in you've written it, you like it, now you're just making it shiny and perfect and ready for battle. So going back to the question we were going to talk about, the process by which to change your categories. I think that this is a really important thing, because what we found, we did I think it was about 6 months ago, we did a experiment to try to test and see what happens when you rank for certain keywords and how Amazon treats it. And what we found was, and I've got a image for it on the article, and we wrote an article about it for Kindlepreneur, but when you select your 7 Kindle keywords, the key is that Amazon really uses a whole bunch of different, it's not just the exact keyword phrase, it's all the words kind of in combination, pluralizations, like you start to index for them. But what Amazon's really doing though, is they're testing to see if your book does well for those phrases, okay? And so they'll show you for it, and they'll show you for all those other combinations. So not just the ones that you think that you're showing up for. And if they see that you're doing historically better at that position than the other books that were there before, then they start to move you up in the rankings, as well as index you for more things. Okay, so it's like Amazon looks in, like the Amazon search engine really looks into previous things. It says, you know, when books did well for, we'll say, epic fantasy war mage, it also did really, that kind of book in the past has done really well for sorcerer, you know, or war sorcerer or something like that. They figure that out. And so now they put the book in there, and then they test to see how is it doing historically. And so what this means for the question of changing your keywords is sometimes a phrase that you did not target may be the biggest earner. It may be the biggest driving factor for your book sales. And it's not the term you put into those 7 Kindle keyword boxes. And that's because Amazon found through testing and through showing that all of a sudden, holy moly, this is great. Let's put him in here. Hey, it's working. Let's keep him there. So what I recommend is that if you ever look to change your keywords, do not change all of them at once. What I would do is just take 2 of those boxes at a time and change them. Okay. Copy what you have in there, paste it somewhere, change the keywords, and then give it a couple of days to see how that works. If nothing changes, then you know that whatever you did is equal to what was doing. If it drops, then whoa, okay, put the old ones back in, and then change another 2. And when you do this, you'll have more concrete evidence as to whether or not your decision actually worked for you. You can kind of experiment. I think this is extremely important, not only for regular authors, but I also think it's an extremely important exercise for series authors, because through this, you can find out which keywords or phrases really works for your series. So when you write book 1 and you experiment, you find out, okay, these 3 boxes are the boxes. These are the ones, right? Well, when you write book 2, use those same 3 keyword boxes for book 2, and then change up 4, 5, 6, and 7 to reflect some of the new things to your book. Now, book 2 will be in the same avenues, the same area as book 1 where it was succeeding, so that previous readers of book 1 will have a possibility of naturally finding book 2 already, on top of Amazon also bolstering up your rankings, because also Amazon knows, hey, this guy bought book 1, he's probably going to buy book 2. And so they'll show you more often. But those things really combine. And I think it's a very powerful momentum move when you're using those successful keywords of book 1 inside of book 2, and then building and trying to expand on the other keywords left.
Sweet, sweet. And there, you had to watch the show for a whole hour before you got these gems, and learn to do better by your keywords within your metadata and blurb. And yes, blurb is key to conversion. I'm convinced of that. I know Brian Cohen and Brian Meeks both have said that, but I mean, they both have blurb writing services. Of course, you're going to say that, but no, it's really the truth. The blurb is the key to conversion. If somebody casually runs across your book, if you've gone to conventions and showed paperbacks, what's the first thing they do? They pick it up, cool cover, and flip it over. And that flip it over, that's going to convert or not. And you have to get that right to improve your chances of making a sale. And it can be 1 to 30 to 1 to 10. That's how important the so instead of 1 sale, you get 3 sales, and you look at your bottom line, and it's like, yeah, I'd much rather have 3 sales. So all important stuff, all great stuff. Publisher Rocket, Atticus coming at the end of February. And any final words, Dave? I mean, this wasn't a promotion show, but this is ways to help you better manage your business, you being the audience, the listeners. We had a great audience today, some 70 some, up to like about 80 people watching, as well as we'll probably get another 1,000, 2,000 watching it later on YouTube. So thanks, Dave. Any final words?
No, I think one big thing I'll say before ending is that when I look at book marketing in general, I like to look at it as two components. There's traffic and then there's conversion. Most online marketers will agree that that's kind of the general online sales component. And what do we mean by this? Well, conversion is when you finally get somebody to see your book, do you convert them? And that's where components like your book cover, your title, subtitle, your description, and your reviews really play a big part, convincing them, you know. And if you don't have that down, if you don't have a good cover, if your book description does not help them to say, oh yeah, this is my kind of book, it doesn't matter what you do for marketing, you won't convert people over. You won't make the sale and get readers and build your author platform. So really making sure that you have that down is incredible. But then the other component is bringing readers to your book. Okay, now that you have that, so this is like advertisement. This is, you know, keywords. This is email, newswatch, networking. Like all of those things are traffic ideas. But let's put it this way: if 1 out of 100 people ends up buying your book, okay, you're going to have to drive a lot of traffic in order to see numbers. But if 1 out of every 10 is buying your book, that's a lot easier. So making sure that you have that polished cannonball is, I think, incredibly important, especially in this industry. So absolutely keep that in mind as you guys are doing that, and then supplement it with traffic generating ideas.
That's well spoken. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. You have a great day. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. Next CNM show will be, I think, this Saturday. I've got Michael will be back, and we're going to talk about something important. I'm sure we'll come up with it later. All right, everybody, you have a great day.